Hello there. Tenet is now on Amazon Prime Video, and I saw it. I had been waiting to watch this movie ever since it was being shot, and on not being able to watch it in the theaters during the pandemic, I saw it now. And hopefully, you're wondering what my thoughts are. To be honest, I can't simply say I loved it or hated it. Do you have that one movie that you want to love so bad, but you don't? Yeah, this movie is that for me. Okay, so let's start talking about Tenet. We start off with the opera house scene where there's chaos all around, and we see many men in heavy suits hijacking the place, the terrorists. But as the scene is going on, the only question on my mind was, what the hell is going on? That's not the first time I asked that question while watching this movie. Their goal seemed unclear. There's a hint at time reversal, some are shooting their own men, and an explosion happens. Our main character, who's literally called the protagonist, runs away, is then killed and revived, and then is introduced to the word Tenet. Nothing made sense. I can understand throwing the audience into a world they do not completely understand and then solving the puzzle throughout the film so that it could make sense later. But here's the thing, it doesn't. It's cool, sure, it's tension filled and everything, but it still doesn't make any goddamn sense. I was like this for the whole movie. So let's start talking about what I liked first. By far, the best thing about Tenet is the score. Ludwig Göransson's music in this film is easily fantastic, giving it a sense of reverse quality to it, yet being able to have some melodious harmony that is suitable to the film. The cast is stellar. I do not even know how they managed to act through this. Reading the script must have been a big challenge in and of itself. They somehow gave these characters heart and personality, and that is really saying something. John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Kenneth Branagh, and Elizabeth Debicki are all great. The cinematography of Hoyt van Hoytma is also one of the major positives. The black values in each shot allow for the other colors to pop out and stand out more without looking extremely colorful because this film lacks an overall fun tone. I like the concept of this movie, reversal of time, and how inventively it's used in many action set pieces and other scenes in general. It was obviously really entertaining, and it felt like the execution for those scenes were really well done. The action set pieces themselves are, grand and operatic, because they went to the opera. Okay, never mind. And I loved every second of it because, as the film said, I stopped trying to understand it and just enjoyed the ride thinking, Nolan is so himself right now, and I can appreciate that. I like how many scenes connect to the previous scenes in the second half, showing them from a different perspective. That stuff was, kinda mind blowing, so I'm not gonna lie there. But let's get to what did not work. To me, Nolan sacrificed characters and structure for spectacle. A lot of the times while watching the film, I thought to myself, man, Inception and Interstellar are so much better, and I think I know why. Those two films are Nolan sci fi films, just like Tenet, handle these big concept ideas. The only reason they work is despite their weak sides, which is mainly the confusing plot and heavy exposition, they work because they have an emotional through line. In Inception, Cobb longs to reunite with his wife. In Interstellar, Cooper longs to finish his mission and return to his daughter on Earth. The reason they work is because these emotional attachments are the source of the internal conflict of these characters. And the presence of internal conflict means more engaging drama that is personal to these characters. That is why they stick with us, and that is why they are still talked about. Meanwhile, in Tenet, that connection, that bond, is severed. We don't know our characters. Well, who is the protagonist? What is his want? What is his need? What does he believe? How does he change over the course of the story? None of that is here. Same goes for our supporting characters. Who is Neil? What's his deal? that rhymed. That's cool. Okay, my bad. Even our antagonist is unbearably underwritten. The only saving grace about him is that he's played by Kenneth Branagh. I hated him, and that's a good thing, right? His performance was good, and he made me despise his character. But then again, the writing counts too, right? And does the writing work here? Well, no. What are his beliefs? How do they oppose our protagonist's beliefs? We don't know. And don't give me that watch it closely, you'll see it bullshit. It's never introduced or talked about. He's just a menacing and awful person. That's it. In the end, he's defeated by his wife applying sunscreen for some reason, and then he gets shot and thrown out of a boat, despite being told that the world would end if he died. Maybe some change happened. I don't freaking know how this movie works. It's confusing, okay? Please, don't blame me. Speaking of confusion, this was another flaw of the movie. This movie makes no goddamn sense. And I get that. Most Nolan films are like that. Probably on rewatch I'll understand and appreciate it more. Only time will tell. But the main problem with the complex plot was the way it was told to us. Exposition! Yay! These were the most boring parts for me in the film. Characters talk about temporal pincer movements or some shit like that without any context. I mean, what does that even mean? Is that even a word? Am I illiterate? Probably. I hope not. Complex words are thrown around and it gets even more confusing than it already is. It's Nolan's flaw in most of his movies, pushed to the extreme here. Visual storytelling is less and it's more verbal and talkative here. This film seemed like it did not have any heart. Honestly, it felt cold. Cold as ice. Speaking of that line in the movie, the dialogue in this film was above average. So many were cliche or straight up predictable. When watching, I literally said, no one talks like this. Either they're dumb, predictable, and most definitely confusing. Even the climax had some great action. Seeing a building transform itself only to blow up again was, the lack of a better term, cool, but it felt mind numbingly weightless to me. I don't even recall what they were shooting at. I only remember explosions and a lot of reversal going on. After Kenneth Branagh dies stupidly, the day is saved. But what did these characters learn from winning? What lesson was taught? How did they grow from this? In The Dark Knight, Batman learns to be selfless by taking blame for Harvey's death and crimes. In Inception, Cobb grows as he lets go of his wife. In Interstellar, Cooper knows he has to let go of his family to save Earth. But what's the case for Tenet? Nothing. They just win. That's poor writing. In the end, the protagonist and Neil separate, as he calls it, the end of a beautiful friendship. But we don't get to see that friendship. Why are they friends? What caused them to be this way? It's very impersonal. The performances are great, but that doesn't excuse the mediocre writing. When the movie concluded, I felt nothing. Do you know how much it pains me to say this? Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. His contribution to cinema cannot be understated. And talking mostly negatives about this film pains me. I wanted to love it so bad, but I can't. Maybe my opinion will change over time. Hopefully it does. But this led me to question. In many of Nolan's films that I love, he has worked with other people in writing the screenplay. So it got me wondering how much contribution Nolan provides, because for Tenet, he's the only one who wrote the screenplay. I felt like Nolan had a lot of creative freedom in making this film, but it forced me to question how much. I've learned that freedom is good, especially in art, but having some restriction forces you to think outside the box and come up with something better and more creative. The screenplay of this film felt like a first draft. It's as if Nolan was given too much freedom. Maybe if he partnered with someone else, it could have been better. I don't know. I like that Nolan clearly explored his obsession with time in this film, but in his other films, the time concept is beautifully weaved into the narrative. But here, it does not. I rewatched most, if not all, of Nolan's films to get to Tenet, to get Nolan, but it didn't work for me that well. I still give it a positive score, check my letterbox, but it goes much beyond that. It's probably that since we hold Nolan to such high regard, we expected too much from him this time. And yes, that's a possibility, but the average writing here was very clear. But I believe filmmakers like Nolan should be allowed to make mistakes. When the merchants of cinema are busy splashing out money to make movies with the lowest common denominator, here's a man who's trying to push the boundaries of cinema with every new venture. Here's to hoping that Nolan's next project will delight us again and prove to us why he's one of the best of all time. Thank you so much for watching.